Hi, everybody, and welcome to Watercolor in the Psalms with Pam. Today I've chosen the verse from Psalm 18, verse 1, and we're going to paint in our journals, but this also could be a card, and that's the size I practiced on to kind of show you what we're going to do. But Psalm 18 says, I love you, Lord. You are my strength. This verse reminds me that I need to seek God's strength and protection during difficult and uncertainties in my life. It motivates me to remember to express my love and gratitude to Him for all He has provided for me and for the salvation He has given me. It's a really, really great verse in my life right now. Anyway, let's paint. So, supplies needed. You'll need number 2, number 3 round brush, something you like to make leaves with, small leaves. I tend to paint the most with my 2 and my number 1 liner. I paint small, so I tend to do that the most, but whatever you're comfortable in your round brushes. Your journal, and I've got my journal ready to go here. We're going to be painting with the Mi-Ling paint set, and I'll go over the colors a little bit with you. I'm going to do a red rose for the rose. The next little flower that we've done before, it's going to be kind of a combination of the red rose and violet. So whatever you come up with your pink and a purple. So my suggestion is you have a pink, a purple, and then you mix the two for the third color. So that's how I came up with the 3. It's not quite as dominant here. I practiced. I like this color a little better. So this is the pink. It's going to be the little more purple pink, and then the purple. For the leaves, I just did hooker green for part of them, and some of them I'm going to do with the hooker green and yellow ochre. Okay, so we have color variation. That is our colors. Let us start. So let us say we're going to do this for a card. My cards are always 4 by 5.5, and they go on a 5.5 by 7. I'm measuring this heart, and this is how I ended up doing it, cutting to figure it would fit on a card, if you want to practice in your journal, to be a 3 by 3.5. So I'm looking at this paper, it's 5, just over 5. I'm just going to find like the 2.5. This I'm going to pretend is my center. And I'm going to draw a line right down the center to make my heart. And I'm going to draw it, we'll just start 3 inches. That looks about right. I'm going to go up ahead of it a little bit. And because I want it to be 3.5 inches, I'll go above my mark. And I'll set this on the 1.5, and I'm going to make a mark here at the beginning and 3 inches. So 3 inches apart. This is not rocket science. It's just a matter that it's an easier way for me to draw a heart and try to be a little bit more symmetrical. Then I turn around and I just go to that point and then kind of come around and down. You see, I didn't even make my point. For me, I have to do it this way. I come around. I didn't get up there high enough, so we'll have to come up, erase that. Down. So I'm going to fix this just a little bit. I want it a little bit higher. I didn't quite get to my point that I had drawn. But that's kind of how I try to get my heart a little bit even. I'm going to erase that center line, and I want to lighten the pencil mark. You'll want to be able to see where the heart is, just so that when you're putting your flowers on, you have some idea where to go. That leaves a lot of the page open for your journal. You can maybe put a prayer down here. You can put the date up here. But this will give you an idea of good practice if you want to do this for a Valentine's card. You don't have to put the verse on it for a Valentine's Day. You could put something else if you wanted. So we're going to start with our roses. And we're going to put 1 rose about maybe halfway on this side and 1 up on this corner. So they're kitty corner from each other, okay? And we'll go back to got my tissue, we got my pink here. Already a little blob of it started. I know a lot of you like to see how it's pretty watery yet. Okay, and I've got my other two colors already mixed. They're not activated, but we'll get to it. I made this mark too dark. Okay, so with my rose, these, if you've never done a rose, don't get frustrated. That if you want to do a few on a piece of paper first, go for it. These are kind of a loose rose, but I actually don't mind making a rose anymore. With my fine brush, I'm going to just make 2 C's. And I just am dipping in there. It's not straight paint, but kind of a C on top of a C. And for this big one, I'm going to just stay with my liner, and I'm going to kind of go between those to make another C. And I'll probably go this side as well. Okay? And you notice I didn't pick up my brush. I just wiped what was on it. I'm going to jump to my bigger brush. I'm going to load with that wet paint, and I'm going to go between where there's an opening of these, and it's kind of like a C. And I sometimes like to try to get a little finer line. Sometimes the brush that you pick may not give you what you want, but try to go a little fatter if you can. Kind of overlap a little bit and kind of swiggle. It's a little harder when I'm upside down here. Kind of swiggle. You know, they're kind of a wider, thinner. Turn your paper, load a little more paint on, do another one. Okay, now I'm going to come over here, and I am not going to load my brush. I'm literally going to rinse it off, tap it so I get some, but there's still some pigment on here, and that's what I want. At least I'm hoping there's still some. Not quite enough. Touch your paint just a little bit if you could. And we're going to go around again. Nope, going to have a little more paint than I thought. I really want this to be lighter, but I do want it to have some pigment to it, especially so you can see it. I just dipped into my paint again. And I'm going to go around, and I push and kind of swirl until I get to a spot like that. Try to keep it a little lighter. Maybe if you dip your brush in the paint, stick it in your clean water, stick it on your pad. Now you're going to have more washed out, but you're going to have some pigment, because we don't want it to be real dark. We want it somewhat lighter. And just kind of go around in that same C shape. And like I say, I like to, if I can get them to, sometimes they blend together on this bigger side. That's okay. Oops, we really dipped in that one. Hang on a minute. Let's get a little bit of that off. In the long run, that's fine. But I like to try to make it kind of swiggle. I hope that makes sense, what I'm doing. You can watch other videos on roses. That one's nice and wet. And that's really what I'm looking to do. And I want this one to be relatively good size, but I want it almost gone back here. And we're going to let that just be for right now. Normally, well, maybe if it's still wet, which I'm hoping it is, I rinse my brush off. I'm going to touch the paint, and I'm going to start in the middle and just try to activate it a little bit if it's damp. Because I like it. If you can see, this one here is doing a nice job. Excuse me. I would like it if it's wet, especially let's try it on this back one here, because I can see it's wet. What I want it to do is just kind of bleed in there. See how it's kind of bleeding in a little color, like maybe back here where we did it. Feels too dark, rinse your brush off, dab it on your tissue so it's not super wet, and then just kind of blend it in there. Blend it along the edge. Maybe you don't want quite that much white. Blend it down a little bit. We're going to come back and work on this a little more later, but that's kind of the object of the first one. We're going to try to make this one a little smaller, so let's try it again. And I do highly, highly recommend that you just take a piece of paper and just practice, okay? And please don't judge your rose right away. They will get better, and you will find your way of moving the brush. But it's basically C's. So there's your first 2 C's. And I'm coming around. I'm trying to go where those... That is not what you should do. Don't make it a complete circle, okay? Sorry. Even sometimes my roses, I'll fix that in the long run. So I'm going to my bigger brush. I'm going to kind of try to make those little bigger petals. That's a petal I love. When it comes out and goes back in. Maybe not as big. Maybe get it in there a little more. Maybe a smaller one. Just kind of work it around. You can work it so it comes all the way like that. And make sure you leave white space. That's the big thing. Leave some white space. I'm going to come a little bit and come right into there. I'm going to come just a little bit more up here. I don't want them too much bigger than that. I spun that around a lot, I know. I'm going to go in with my small brush. I'm going to see if he's still wet enough to pick up some spots along where you've got the white space, where you came in and you made the C. I'm going to try to blend him a little bit, like back here. Try to get that petal to look like it's down in a little more. Maybe a little here. In the long run, what we really need is to keep the middle darker and the outside lighter. That's what we want. But we still need to get some more color in there. So you may have to work around on some of those spots and let it be, and we'll come back and work and play with him more. Okay, so there's our 2 roses. I'm going to erase a little bit more here, though I can do it afterwards too. Do you recall the other flower we did was where we made the 5 drops? So we're only going to do 4 on this one. And this is going to be in that mixture of the purple and the pink. And we'll go right here and we're going to put 4 dots. Rinse out your brush. Dry it a little bit. Make it wet. Get some of the moisture off because you don't need it all. And you're going to dip into that one end, kind of work around. If you feel it's too bright, like I feel it's a little bright right here, I went and got some more water. I'd rather have it wet at this point as to have it be so dark, because in just a second, like that one's getting too dark. I want it to come right up to the rose. I'm going to rinse my brush. I'm going to dip into there, and I'm just going to tap so we get that fun wash, if I can get paint on my brush, to go out on the flower. Okay, there's one. That should bring you right about to your point. If it's too far past, we probably should have brought our rose up a little bit because I really want the bottom to be down a little bit. We may move it a little bit as we go, but I really should have kept him up a little higher. He should have been a little smaller. But let's do the same thing here. I want those a little wetter. Okay, rinse off my brush, make sure it's got a little clean water on it. And this one's going to be a little lighter because I made the dots a little bigger and wetter, and that's okay. You can pick what color you like when you do this. Maybe you don't like that color together. I'm dipping back into that color and making my flower. I'm going to go up here and we're going to do the same thing. I like the way this went when it was a little wetter. So make your little dots a little wetter. Rinse off your brush. Make sure you got some water. And if you look, I'm putting my dots around that line. So I'm keeping this as much in the heart shape that I can. And just getting this flower out while those little dots are still wet. That one dried up on me. Dip in there, put another dot. Rinse my brush, clean water, and dip back in my mixture. Make sure you mix enough of it up. Like this one's got a little drier. If you feel like it's too dry and it's not doing any spidering, just come in here with some clean water and reactivate that dot you just put in. If you feel like it's still not moving, put a little more color in it. I'm reaching over. I'm running low on my mixture here. There. And we're going to put one more, just like we did on that side, up here. A little bit of this is kind of symmetrical. It's going to end up not necessarily completely symmetrical because of where we put them, but it's going to have the look of it. This one's getting dry. This time I just put some more water on it instead. When I just add water, lots of water, it gets to be a little lighter. I kind of like it, and it will for sure spider on me better if I have paint on my brush, sorry to say. And we'll get that look. Okay. So the next flower, I'm gonna jump to my fine liner. And I don't really know if this is a flower of any sort, and I'm going with straight violet on this. And I think I'm gonna make a bigger one here, and I'm gonna make kind of a round, and he's gonna have little petals off the side. I might put a little 2-petal one here, another 2 here, kind of. I just want him to go around and up a little ways. It only has to really go maybe to the curve. Okay? There is no rhyme, they're just little swishes. This side, you can see we're almost to the middle, so we're just gonna put 1. And I'm just gonna make it 3 because I like to work in 3. We might come back and add a little more color to those. Because of where we ended up here, being so close, we're just gonna put 3 here too. And that'll be the end when we go later. And now we're gonna do the same we did over here. And I'll put a little bigger one. And some smaller ones. I thought I just stuck my hand in my other one. You can even put 3. This one just looks bigger. I'm really gonna put branches to kind of meet them. You can do whatever type flower you want here. If you want something else, that's fine. Okay, so those are done. I'm gonna come in with my deep purple, and I'm just gonna tap at the base of them, more concentrated, so hopefully it gets a darker little dot. Those are pretty wet yet. And with my fine brush here, sometimes it doesn't want to pick up the way I want. But especially these that are lighter, I want to make sure they're a little darker, just to give them a little contrast, a little more pizzazz, a little more something, a little more depth. Okay? All right. So we pretty much got our flowers in. Now we're going to work on some leaves. I'm going to go back to my number 2. I actually could go back to my bigger one. I'm going to try it. I'm going to go actually to my number 8 round. It's got a nice point on it. We're going to see how that works. I'm going to go just to that hooker green. Tap a little off, and I'm going to start putting some rose petals here, and then I'm going to try to put a little line out if I can. Like I said, I'm not sure this green is activated enough yet. I had made it earlier and it dries up pretty fast. Okay. I'm gonna just put just a little line in. Now, to me, that is too much paint on that brush. I have to pull it back out. But I'd rather have bigger, a little bigger anyway, by the roses. Okay, because that's a bigger flower, a bigger leaf. Put one there, you can put one here, I might put one up here. Maybe I'll put one here in the middle. Maybe not quite as big so that I got enough room for my words. Let's see, I might come over on this side and put one in the middle here. Have to come back and put a stem, that's fine. If you just want to get some leaves for them, okay. We'll put more on them if you want, or you can come right now with your paint. And this is where I personally would switch to my smaller brush and give them a little more contrast here and there. Like this one, I would come up and probably just do something like that. You can put the lines in a little later again, but if that looks too heavy, wipe your brush off a little and then reposition it. It doesn't matter if you want to make the whole thing darker. He was pretty light. Want to make him darker? That's fine. You could come in then and just add another, if he's still wet, you could just tap in him a little bit more. You know, we aren't saying these have to be a certain color. We're just putting some leaves around our roses here. Like he needs a little bit of love. He hasn't got much of a point on him. So we get those on there. I just like to have two colors on my leaves if I can. My flowers have two colors, so they should. Oh, I did forget, we have to have yellow for the center of our flowers, but we'll come back with that. Or you could, actually in this case, because we didn't pull any yellow anywhere else, why don't we take our deep purple and just kind of put some dots in the middle of those flowers there. And that pulls that purple from the other flowers. Okay. Now go back to your liner. And I think I'm going to use this time the Hooker green and the yellow, making it a little more olivey. And I'm going to connect my little leaves here, my little flowers. I'm going to put their stems where they are, kind of run them into your flower, like so. Just run them into each other for now. We'll give some more vines in a minute, but I just want them to look like they're going to go to a vine. Kind of aim them towards your heart, like that. Just so we've got some little stems on them. Okay, let's see here. Where these go? I know we got this one as a bigger one, but we can give it one big stem so that it just does one flower. You could pretend these are just one flower. Okay. Now I'm going to go back to my Hooker green. Not sure I love the name of that one. And I'm going to make some more vine here. I'm going to connect these a little bit. I'm going to start to connect the vine in there. And as I come up here, I'm going to just kind of put a little swirl here and there, because I'm going to pretend that that vine comes right to the heart down here. And down here, just before you get to the middle, give it your first little leaf, and then give it another little leaf here and there, connecting it to your vine. You could come around with the vine and do it again. Okay, so that we've got a couple vines coming through there. You can even come around and give some swirls, like so. But I just want little leaves connected all over on this one. This one here ended up a little big. I didn't really want them that big. But put some vines, some leaves on those vines, okay? It's just to get them, and I'm going to add a few more swirls. Swirls are easiest if your brush is wet. Just kind of, sometimes they go good, sometimes they don't. And make sure you put some leaves down here. And continue with that hooker green and give a few little leaves on with your purple too. So if you kept a little space here and there, that'd be nice if they had a few leaves. Like so. We're going to come back and put some leaves around this one yet, but for right now, let's just start with these. I think I'm going to make this the end of my vine, so I'm just going to come and connect. I think I'm going to give it a little leaf here. It all depends how much room you have. You could add more vine if you wanted. I just like the look of it there. I'm going to maybe just put a little swirl here. There it comes out. Maybe one on this side because he didn't do too well catching on. Okay. Gotta get my... And this side, we'll do the same thing we did up here. I'm going to start with a leaf this time. And run my vein up here, my vein up there. And then come here and swiggle another one. You can even do 3 of them if you like. That doesn't matter. I just want it to be vine of some sort connected and leaves going down to make the heart shape. And then remember to put the little squiggles out your vine wherever you'd like. See what I mean? I'm going to connect. Again, I'm going to connect this one again and put some leaves in there for that. Here and there, a few little leaves so that my flowers don't have... You could have probably done the hooker green the whole way here. You can pick up one color or the other. I was thinking I was going to do the olive green, but I ended up... Actually, what might look really nice, and maybe we're going to do that yet. My olive green is what is made when you make the hooker green and the yellow. You get more of an olive green. And what we're going to do, I make just a little bit more here. We're going to add one more vine in here. I don't know where, but we're going to make one come through here. Just to give it a different color. And it might be a little tricky. You might have done your second one with that instead. But just for a variance in color, you could do that. I personally think I would have done 2 of them, 1 in each color. But because we didn't, we're going to come back, and this one I can actually go over the other one. And it's kind of fun to see 2 different colors of green in there because we're going to put the other green in there too. Plus it gives a little variety. Don't forget, these can have little swirls off them. Okay. Now while you got that green, these could use some leaves too. I think I'm going to try to fill in some spots. I'm going to pretend that this one was underneath my rose. I'll put another one out here. These, I think I'm going to have them connect a little bit more to my plant, like they're a short little flower or leaf. I might even put another little one there. I'm just going to try to fill in just a little bit because otherwise there's no green between those 2 flowers. Could even have one stick down here and come out like that. This is just where you start playing and you think, oh, I'd like something more here, or I want something more there. I'm almost losing my one there. Sorry if I'm quiet. I'm kind of looking at it and thinking, where would I like something? All right, we're gonna let that sit a minute. Let's go back to our rose. I'm gonna have to activate your pink color, I'm sure. Mine's a little dry here. And I'm gonna have you instead take your fine brush and try to make maybe that back petal, a couple of them, a little damp, and maybe just help, maybe that will help activate the color. That's one way. And then you can push it in there. In fact, you can even get a little more because it's still damp. The other way is dry. Okay, so I didn't put any water here. I'm going to put the color there. I'm going to clean out my brush, and then I'm going to blend this. And this is where the liner might not be the better brush because it doesn't have the stability to push the way I would like it to. I'm going to go back to my number 2 brush here. I'm going to make sure we put some more dark in the middle. I might even do that mixture of the rose, which, believe it or not, I don't have any left. I'm going to make some here a minute real quick. That little darker color, I think, would look nice in the middle here. But you only want to keep it in the middle if you can. Maybe the first row here where it was darker before. Again, rinse your brush off and then try to blend it in there so you don't have those rigid lines. And it kind of looks like it's blending in a little more. I wouldn't go any further than that with the dark. Let's switch to your pink again. Rinse my brush off. I'll try to blend that in a little bit. If you make it wet enough, it will reactivate that line that you just put in there. And this is definitely the playing part. It's the be patient. I think I got a pink or something on this brush right now. Or I still got purple in there somewhere. But I'm just gonna wipe the paint off and dry brush it to get the leaves in there till I feel like I'm popping enough. I sometimes go over and over and over with, here I'm coming with my brush and I'm just trying to put that little darker again in the middle. I never know which brush I'm going to like the best, to be honest, depending how wet I make it when I put it on. My goal is that it looks like it's blended along the edges there. Okay. So I'll do a little bit more on this one. Get that little darker color in the middle there. And rinse my brush off and kind of blend it in a little bit. Actually, the middle doesn't need as much blending because you do want it to stay dark. So, but if you do, you can always touch it a little bit more. I know you're coming in with damp paint here. That is really the best way to wipe your brush off and then blend it in. Can you see how that's kind of coming up the side of that petal there? Trying to get it to give that direction to that petal. Let's see which one I haven't done yet. Sometimes I come back and do 2-3 times. My goal always is to keep it the lightest though on the outside. That one I got too much just water, which is fine. I'm gonna just put some of that light pink, that pink in there and see once if it will activate and do what I'm looking for. Okay. So you can play with those a little bit more. You can come now with your leaves are all dry, you can pick up some of that hooker green if you'd like, and you can kind of, with your fine brush, get it activated. Mine's not. I would put a few stems in them to kind of look a little bit, you know, more like a leaf. It's a little, make sure you got a nice fine brush that you can do that. Make sure they're connected. You can come through on your vine and even put a little darker spot once in a while as you're coming up to your leaf. This is called the detail time. You can stop if you like it, or you can play with it. I tend at this point to start playing with it and playing and playing. I can sit for quite a while and just add darker. I'll just keep going to that green, and I might have one or the other. It doesn't matter to me which one I've got. Especially on these big ones, I'll come back and get their little stem on them. Maybe bring it in to the middle of the flower, connect it. Probably should have done the olivey green there, but that's kind of what you want to do next, okay? And I'm not going to do all of this because it just takes so much time on our video. But go around and darken some spots on it. Pull out some more color. If you don't like your leaves, you can make them darker. See, like this one wasn't connected, then connect it with a darker color. Okay? Go around and just go from flower to flower, putting your veins in. And it will give such a much better leaf look once you get those in. Okay, keep playing with it as you like. At that point, you can put whatever you want in here. I am going to put the verse in here again. I'm going to use my pencil to make lines. I started my last one up a little higher than I like. I love you, and I want Lord all by itself. You are my, it looks like there's plenty of room for strength here. And below we can still get where it's found. Sure, I'm still in the line here. I love you, comma, Lord, and Lord, and then we got a colon here. You are my, I like that my came out a little bit because strength is going to come that way yet as well. And I'm going to do my fun TH. I just did the T. I'm going to come across and make my H. Strength. Psalm 18, verse 1. And I would say that that would make a really, really beautiful Valentine's Day card for somebody. Like I said, you can write something below, you can put the date above, but that is our Psalm 18, verse 1. This will probably be the last video for January. I will be out away from my desk for a bit, and possibly back in March. We'll see what we can put on again. But for now, this will be the last one for a little bit, and I hope you have enjoyed walking through some of the Psalms with watercolor. Thank you. Stop.